Hello everybody, thank you for watching this video, which is about an experiment that I started this winter with a whole bunch of very small Monstera deliciosa wet sticks. I took those wet sticks from a 20-year-old Monstera plant that I had to chop up, and apart from the leaf cuttings, I think I ended up with more or less 15 small wet sticks, basically 1 or 2 inches tall with a very small root at the node. Now, as an experiment, I decided to propagate them in 2 steps. First, I put them in a closed propagation box with humid perlite, and most of them rooted very well and started to produce a small first leaf pretty quickly. At that moment, I took them out of the closed container and repotted them a second time, not in soil, but once again in pure perlite, but this time I used an open glass container to give them airflow and keep them growing that way. Now I will quickly show you a screenshot from the moment I repotted them a second time in the glass containers in perlite. I also made a very short video about this that I posted on January the 4th that you can still watch if you feel like it, and that I called Creating an Alien Landscape with Monstera Cuttings, because the result did look quite alien indeed. And you can clearly see here that in January they were just small wet sticks with a first small leaf trying to unfold. Now let's get back to what these wet stick propagations look like today. And there are actually 5 reasons why I wanted to show you this update. The first reason is just to show you the growth of the leaves and stems after 5 months, and you can see that they all really took off, and the leaves are actually getting quite big at the moment. The second reason is that normally we only see the aerial roots of a Monstera plant and not the roots that are growing inside the substrate, because we generally pot them up in a big opaque pot, but here in these glass containers I've been able to follow the root growth inside the perlite for the last 5 months. And as you can see, the growth of the roots is quite spectacular for such small plants. The third reason is a little bit philosophical, by which I mean that sometimes we don't realize just how advanced nature actually is. Being able to produce a whole new plant just from a small piece of stem that you cut off a mother plant, and then Mother Nature turns that small piece into a full new plant. I think that's just amazing and even humbling if you think about it. Now the fourth reason has to do with the growing medium that is perlite. In my experience, aroid wet sticks respond very well to this 2-step propagation in perlite. First in a closed container, and once a leaf appears, you repot them once again in perlite, but without putting a lid on the container, so they get more air and airflow. I tried this method with monsteras and philodendrons, and it works just great. Now, why this second step in perlite, you might wonder, and why not putting it immediately in soil once you take them out of the propagation box? Well, in my experience, this second transitory step helps the cutting to adapt to the open air while still being comfortable in the same wet growing medium that it had before. So that once you finally repot it in soil, the transition is less invasive for the young plant, since it already adapted to an open air environment. Now the fifth and final reason for showing you this is related to fertilizing. You should know that since I started these propagations, I have never fertilized these young plants. So they have only known water and perlite so far and nothing else. So how to explain that these plants have been growing so much without any food? To me, this is proof of the fact that plant fertilizers are not food for the plants, but just something extra to help them with the different processes they operate genetically. This means that a plant actually gets its food from photosynthesis and not from any fertilizers. And the fact that these plants have grown so much in perlite without any fertilizer actually proves this fact. Now, what will be the third step for these plants? It is springtime now, so pretty soon I will want to repot them all in an aroid mix. And since the plants have never been fertilized before, I will only use an organic fertilizer that cannot harm these young plants. So I will just mix some worm castings into my aroid mix and then pot the plants up in that substrate, so they will get an extra boost from the worm castings to further develop their growth. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye.